Hello, everyone. This is the Movie Night Society, or two thirds of the Movie Night Society yet again. Uh, we're talking about Spider-Man 3, uh, because we talked about Spider-Man 1 and 2 last week, and I think 2 was like our longest discussion yet. I think it was like
it was 2 hours.
2 hours and 13 minutes.
I say when we were either filming it or right after we filmed it, it would probably be our longest video.
I think so. Yeah. I mean,
sure
it's
I
one
did.
of it's like your second favorite movie of all time.
Yes,
and it's
I have a lot to say about that movie, so
yeah, and it's
I
like
wasn't surprised.
my favorite superhero movie, I would say.
We both really love Spider-Man 2, so
yeah. I mean, I really love the whole trilogy. I okay, I know Spider-Man 3, like, it definitely gets a lot of flack.
Especially when it came out, everyone just seemed to hate it.
Looking back on it, like, how long now? Like 15 years?
Yeah, 2007 is when it came out.
Yeah, I gotta say, I enjoyed it immensely. I really thought there were some like really great elements in this movie, and some goofy ones too. We'll get into everything, but I guess just yeah, like off the bat, like I really enjoyed it, like genuinely. I have problems with it, but I overall quite liked it a lot. I don't know about you. What did you?
I pretty much have the same opinion where it's a messy movie. You can tell with this one that there was some studio conflict of what Raimi kind of wanted to do and like what Sony wanted to do due to kind of like popular demand. But you know what? For a movie that has, I think, pretty clear studio interference, he still was able to make a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy this movie too overall. It's like you said, it's got some really great scenes, really great moments, and some pretty goofy ones. But I think knowing Raimi was the director, it's like pretty intentional, pretty on the nose.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's definitely some problems, like you said. But overall, this is I got to tell the story of because I talk about this every time we talk about Spider-Man 3, but when we watched it together, this was a couple of years ago, and I know it'd been like a long time since you had seen it, and it probably was like a couple of years since I've seen it. I remember you watched 1 and 2, so like, well, I've been kind of rewatching the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, so like I'm on Spider-Man 3. You just want to watch Spider-Man 3? I don't know if you remember that because this was several years ago. But like I said, I gotta tell this story. So when we were watching it, or should I wait till we talk about like the scene?
Maybe yeah. Let's wait until we talk about the scene.
Okay.
Because, oh my god.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Absolutely.
This was probably. I've already said this to Julian, of course, but you know, to people who are watching, this was probably like one of the most fun times I had watching a movie with Julian because of his reaction to a certain scene. I probably will. It just like burned into my mind. I'll never forget it. It was just such a great moment.
Yeah, I got to pull the movie up on Netflix here because there was another line in this scene that cracked me up this time. But again, we'll get to it when we talk about it. Yeah, okay. I don't know. I guess we'll just start from the beginning of the movie and kind of like picking off where Spider-Man 2 kind of ended, where Mary Jane and Peter finally like get together, but Peter is still Spider-Man, and even at the end of 2, you mentioned like there's kind of a clear look of like, I don't know, like Mary Jane maybe
uncertainty.
Thinking like, yeah, uncertainty. Like, is this really gonna work?
Right decision.
Yeah, and going into this movie, I think we both know like Joel Haver on YouTube. He does those like really funny animations, those like rotoscoped animations. Mm-hmm. And he started a new channel recently where he talks about movies. And I think in like one video, I think on like comfort movies or something like that, he talks about the Spider-Man trilogy. And he said Spider-Man 3 is his favorite because it's like the most thematically kind of rich out of the three. And like I had that in my mind while watching this movie, and it was kind of like, yeah, it's like tackling some ideas that I think are, I don't know, you wouldn't expect like a superhero movie to talk about. like and it's like things that I feel like the other movies did tackle like to a certain degree, but maybe not to like this extent, where like Mary Jane and Peter Parker's relationship like isn't good in this movie.
No,
You
it's
know,
really not. Even when
it's
they're
like,
kind of like on good terms in the beginning,
yeah,
because this movie's like a little bit different because normally, like in the first two movies, he's kind of we're kind of told that there's a lot of people that like him, but there's a lot of people that don't due to the press and all that. But in this one, it opens up with it, the fact that he's like really popular. He's the most popular he's really ever been. Everyone pretty much loves Spider-Man now, and things are really good for Peter because he's kind of been able to find a balance that he was just not able to, especially in Spider-Man 2. We saw him struggle that whole movie of not being able to balance his life with being Spider-Man and being Peter Parker. But now he's got a little bit more experience. He's balancing it out a little bit more, and he's got his life together. He's finally with the girl he loves, so he's like up here at the start of the movie.
yeah. But he's like not really able to give Mary Jane like the attention she needs.
Yeah, and he's
in the
not very
relationship.
self-aware throughout this movie at all. Like how
Yeah,
kind of like his fame is kind of getting to his head a little bit. His popularity is getting to his head a little bit. He a lot of times when she tries to express like a problem she's having or something, he kind of brings it back to himself. And in a lot of ways, like you want to just like shake your head at him, but you also kind of understand because he's, you know,
he went like after watching two, it's like, oh my god, like everything went wrong for him
yeah,
in two.
and things are finally going right.
Yeah, with that kind of context, it's like really understandable how you kind of like feel excited for Peter, but yeah, you can see how it's like kind of gone to his head, and he's almost more oblivious seeming, like you
Yeah,
said, yeah, he's like not
he's
self-aware.
not self-aware about it.
He
That's
like he
kind of
just
like the
like
big
isn't
problem.
really like aware that like, oh, Mary Jane is having problems.
Yeah,
And
he just kind of tries to brush it off a little bit and like, oh, it's no big deal.
yeah, and she kind of like realistically doesn't tell him about her problems either, because I feel like in her head it's like, well, I don't want to bring him down off of his high either.
Yeah,
You know, like I want him to understand what's going on, but I don't want it to like
yeah. Well, it just
affect
shows you
things.
being with Spider-Man can be complicated.
Yeah, yeah.
Or being with
Uh,
any kind of like superhero, I would think. I mean, just a normal relationship can be complicated enough, but then like you got to throw in dating a superhero, and it just
yeah,
makes it even more complicated.
yeah, yeah, and like other than that, Peter's relationship with Harry like is uh pretty much at a low. And
Yeah, since at the end of the second one, and Harry discovers the truth that Peter's Spider-Man, and he believes that Spider-Man killed his dad. So
yeah, he's found all the Green Goblin gear, and seems to have been injecting him with the stuff, at least to a degree that it doesn't make him completely Willem
yeah,
Dafoe insane.
it seems to enhance his strength and abilities and all that, but not give him
Yeah,
insanity. Doesn't give him
yeah,
the Goblin persona.
yeah. And sorry, I'm just thinking of certain lines from this movie. This movie is like really funny and
Well,
quotable.
this movie is
Uh,
like probably the one that generated the most memes just from
yes,
its lines.
definitely. Yeah, there's so many moments. But yeah, like the first, I don't know how long, but the first part of this movie is pretty. And I feel like a lot of the movie is kind of like it doesn't quite have the Sam Raimi like style yet.
Hmm.
Would you agree? Like it does. It kind of feels a little bit more restrained in the beginning.
Yeah,
And I think
I
of
do
the
agree.
scene where he goes to see the play, and it just like kind of takes the time to like let her sing the song
Hmm.
for a bit,
Yeah. Hmm.
which I thought was a nice scene. But then like, oh, like critics like don't like her and everything, and yeah, like Peter keeps bringing it back to like, oh yeah, I know what you're going through. Like I'm Spider-Man. Spider-Man's had critics, and it's like you can't hate Peter for it because it's just like, I don't know. He's trying to help. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think, like, you can tell like his intentions aren't bad. He's not like
Yeah.
trying to make it bad about himself, but it kind of goes back to he doesn't have any self-awareness
Yeah.
in this context. And but it's like you really can't fault him because like he does understand about the problem of like, well, I have critics too. You just kind of gotta ignore them and get back on the horse, as he says. Just kind of keep going. But like Mary
Yeah.
Jane's never really had to deal with that before, so she kind of, has like a hard time not understanding them. But I guess like he's trying to kind of encourage her, and it's not what she needs to hear at that moment. I think
Yeah.
it's like she just kind of needs him to just be supportive of her, and he without like trying to make it kind of about himself. But like again, he's not trying. He just lacks self-awareness here, and that's like in some ways that's the biggest villain of the movie is Peter's lack of self-awareness.
I mean, that's, I think, the interesting thing about this movie is like the biggest villain is Peter. It is like his own kind of emotions and self-awareness and self-control in a way. And I mean, okay, I'm trying to think like just in terms of how the plot moves along, like what happens when. I know there's like the scene where Mary Jane and Peter are like on the web.
Yeah.
And then
we get the Venom suit coming down on the comet.
Yeah, and I guess we should talk about that because I've always just heard about the full, about what happened between Sam Raimi and the studio on this. So I don't know if everything I know is accurate or not, but
right. This is just what kind of, I don't know how accurate it is either. Just this is what people think it is or whatnot. But everyone kind of at least knows that Sony, it seems like, was kind of pushing Venom, but Sam Raimi was never a big fan of Venom because that just wasn't like the comics that he read didn't work Venom. So he wasn't really familiar with the character. So of course, like, why would I do a character I'm not really familiar with?
Yeah, and I have heard that like Sam Raimi was maybe like initially resistant to the idea, but then kind of read more about the character and then was like, okay, I can see how this
excited because Venom almost seems like it'd be right up his alley. That's the funny part.
Yeah, I know the church scene later on I felt was very like Raimi.
That scene is also like ripped right from the '90s Spider-Man cartoon. I don't know how accurate it is to the comic, but like
okay,
like the exact same way, just about like going up into a church and then like using the bell to get the suit off, and then the suit like drips down onto Eddie. I don't know if that's like that's I think it also happens that way in the comics as well, but I'm not just off the top of my head. I don't know for certain, but it's also just happens very similarly to the '90s Spider-Man show, which I'm pretty sure followed the comic pretty closely. So that was like taken right from that.
I wasn't sure if that was a Sam Raimi thing or not because it felt very Raimi to me.
I guess he was just like a fan of that, so he pretty much replicated that.
Yeah, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I want to double check. I believe that this is the first of the trilogy where Sam Raimi was involved with writing.
Oh, okay. I don't think I knew that.
Okay. Yeah, so let's see. The first movie was a screenplay by David Coep, who did like Jurassic Park. And then 2 was there were like 3 people who did the story, and then the screenplay was written by Alvin Sargent. Yeah, Sargent. So I don't have my glasses on, so it's hard to read this. But then the third movie is Alvin Sargent and Sam Raimi and Ivan Raimi.
Ah, okay.
Writing the screenplay. So I did kind of like, I noticed that in the credits when in the opening, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, and I had that in mind during the movie, because it feels a little more Raimi in certain parts, and then it feels very Alvin Sargent, like because he wrote two, and two is like the best one. I like definitely got the influence from him in a lot of scenes, and just like I feel like in terms of how the story generally moves along and like the character drama again is like I think really good in this movie. Despite some of the silliness later on.
Oh, you love it.
Yeah, I do love it, but it's not like I don't know. The second movie is so good in terms of like all the character beats and stuff, and then 3 is a little over the top at times, but still, I think the ideas come across really well.
Yeah.
I want to mention that those opening credits because I remember you saying, I don't know if I think we said it in our discussion, but that Spider-Man 2's opening credits are so great with those paintings.
Yes.
And then 3 is like very just like stills and clips from the other movies.
I still like 3s though, like the way they do it. Like it's not bad. I like 2's like using the paintings more.
I thought that was like much, I don't know, much classier.
Yeah, I do think it's pretty good in Spider-Man 3 too. Especially I liked how they made this like the webbing and everything that's like around the scenes, and like it kind of turns into Venom and it's like crawls around like this, like kind of a clever way to kind of like hint to Venom like in the opening credits. So there's like I do like it. I think it's good. Like none of the openings in any of these movies are bad. I think 2's is the best.
Yeah, and it's nice that these movies have openings at all.
Yeah,
because I think we talked about last time, like that stuff, that kind of thing is really devoid. Like movies now are devoid of that.
I know, it's such a shame too.
And it's not like there's any one right way to make a movie or anything. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah, but these get you just like so excited to watch the movie.
Yeah, I feel like especially for superheroes, like I miss that. Like I think that kind of stuff is so fun. And yeah, like it gets you excited. Like Danny Elfman's score is like again really good in this. But yeah, I just want to mention that opening. So yeah, I don't know. Then what happened? Trying to think of what just like chronologically what happens in the movie.
Well, I guess like kind of the next like, big thing would be Peter plans to propose to Mary Jane, so he goes and visits Aunt May.
Oh, I really like this scene. This is
Rosemary Harris. Every scene she's in is great. She is probably I think the like most underrated actor in these movies. I think because it just doesn't seem like she gets like enough credit. Of course, Willem Dafoe is great. Alfred Molina, Toby, but
it's because she's not playing like any of the villains or heroes. You know what I mean?
So she doesn't quite get the attention, but I think she steals a lot of the scenes that she's in.
Oh, I think she's great in this.
There's only like 2 scenes in Spider-Man 3 though.
Yeah, I wish she was in it more. That's my. I do think that's not a complaint, but I wish she was in it more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like this scene a lot. Like, Peter's like telling Aunt May that he's going to propose to Mary Jane. I almost said Aunt May.
I've been awkward. I know you've been missing Uncle Ben, so I thought I could take his place.
Don't say
that. That did not happen, thankfully.
But yeah, so he's telling Aunt May like I'm going to propose to Mary Jane, and she tells like the story of how Uncle Ben proposed, and you're still laughing.
Yeah, I'm trying to mute myself, but I'm like, I feel it coming. It's gonna come back. All right, sorry. Continue.
But yeah, the scene is like really. I mean, God, you're still laughing. You just get it all out. Just get it all out.
I know. I'm like, okay, I'm done. And then, I don't know. That caught me so off guard. Okay, back on track with the review.
Okay, well, yeah. So she's saying like Uncle Ben proposed to me, but I said no because we weren't ready yet. And he's still laughing. I'm just gonna keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
So she's like, we weren't ready. We didn't have like sustainability, I think is what she says, right? Something like that.
Yeah. No, what I like about that, I think that's where you're going, is like he, proposed, and Peter's like, oh, so of course you said yes. She's like, no, I said no. Like I wanted to, but we weren't ready.
Yeah.
You don't really like hear that a lot of times, I think, like especially like in superhero movies, even just like movies where it's like, oh, it's the love story, and of course they said yes, and they got married when they were young and in love. It's like, no, I said no because we weren't ready.
That's the thing that I like about these movies is they feel like they I don't know, they just provide very simple like life lessons and stuff that I mean, I don't know, in a way like they could seem obvious, but like I don't know. I think they're just these movies are like full of some kind of wisdom in a strange way for like especially compared to other superhero movies,
Yeah.
I hate to keep dogging on other superhero movies because I do like a lot of other superhero movies, but just general.
I think there's some very like good advice we get from Aunt May, because I think like, especially like a lot of movies, it's like when somebody says that, oh, I'm going to propose to somebody, like somebody would say in response like, oh, is it like, do you really love them? Blah blah blah. But Aunt May, instead of like just saying like, oh, you better make sure you love Mary Jane before you do this, she says like, okay, well, to be married, a husband needs to put his wife before himself. Are you ready to do that?
Yeah, I like that's a much much better way of putting it. And I think also like she doesn't ask him like, do you love Mary Jane? Because he obviously does.
Yes, she knows that.
Yeah. But the lesson is much deeper than that. It's
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't remember like getting that in a lot of other stuff,
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to do like, it's not just do you love this person? Are you going to be able to like make sacrifices for them and put you're going to put their needs above yours? Because that's I'm not married. You're not married. Neither of us are married here. But obviously we have parents and they're married, and at least I've gotten like some things about a lot of it, the sacrifices that you'd have to make when you're married, and trying to put the other person that you love, their needs ahead of your own. It's always a good lesson, and it's simple, but it's good. And I think we need to hear more of that these days.
Yeah, it's not a simple like, do you love her or not? Or and just going to the writing more on that, like I feel like in other superhero movies or other just movies in general too, I feel like the relationship isn't quite working well kind of thing would almost be I don't know, like it would be a side plot in a larger story or something,
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know, like I guess just like if one of these newer Spider-Man movies did it, I'm sure like they probably did something like this, I'm just not remembering. But it's like, oh, if Peter and Mary Jane's relationship wasn't great, it would kind of be like something that's on the side, and then the main thing going on with the villain would be the main story, but it teaches him the lesson, and then Mary Jane and him will have like one scene where they apologize to each other or whatever, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the whole movie is about this,
Yeah.
That's what I like about these movies. It's like the character drama is kind of the real story, and then it's sort of Trojan horsed like in this like superhero movie,
Yeah.
I like that a lot more. And just I even just like this scene with Aunt May is just like funny. I like how like she mentions like, oh, Uncle Ben looks so handsome in his bathing suit and stuff like that. It's just very like endearing because the characters,
Yeah, I agree.
It's like and you're right. Like Tobey Maguire and Rosemary Harris just like have really good chemistry.
Yeah.
So
these scenes really
she's
work.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's great.
Uh,
I want to call her my grandma.
yeah, she's amazing in this. And then I'm trying to think what happens next.
Well, after he gets the ring, that's when I think he's attacked by Harry.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Because that's a big part of their action scene, which I really like the fight between them in this, and how the first part of it is like the ring keeps getting loose from Peter, and Peter's like trying to web it, trying to get it back. We get like I think some good use of slow motion.
Yeah, that it worked in this. Yeah, I think you've complained about slow motion.
Yeah, how it's
Zack
way
Snyder,
overused,
and I
way overused.
I agree.
Some stuff like I think in these ones, like Sam Raimi knows like when and not to use it.
Yeah, it works really well here. Yeah, when he's like reaching out for the ring, he's like falling down. That shot's great. And it's man, I don't know. It's like you do kind of go like, oh shit.
Yeah, because it's like it's fun to watch
Aunt
a lot of
May's,
people.
It's Aunt May's ring.
Yeah,
like
it's not like just the ring he's gonna use to propose to Mary Jane, which would already make it like important right there. But he got it from Aunt May.
Yeah, it's like it's the ring that Uncle Ben used to propose to Aunt May. That's serious.
Yeah.
I want to go back to that scene too. Like, yeah, she gives him that ring, and yeah, Peter's like shocked. It's like, oh, like really? Like you can't do that. Like you can't give me Ben's ring.
Yeah, I like that he doesn't say anything too. Like he just like when she's offering it to him, he just kind of looks like disbelief, like, and you can tell by his face, like, are you sure? Or really, you're giving this to me? Like, this is your ring, really? But he never says that. It's just you can.
Yeah, and even before that, like she's kind of like she's clearly like about to cry because she's just like reminiscing about.
Yeah, I think she does cry a little bit. Yeah, I think she cried like there was at least like one tear, and then she kind of wipes it away.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the ring is like, oh my god, don't lose that. Yeah, the fight with Harry I think is good. I did kind of find it a little bit too CGI heavy.
Yeah, there's definitely some points where you can see the CG. I mean, I guess with all the stuff they're doing, obviously from the first one, it was a lot more practical. They had a lower budget. And obviously by this time, much bigger budget. So this definitely probably had the most CG in all the fights out of the trilogy.
I mean, speaking of budget, like, I think this was the most expensive movie ever made at the time.
Really?
I think so.
I know that the Pirates movies, like Pirates 3 came out the same year as this.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia. It says with an estimated production budget of 258 to 350 million, it was the most expensive film ever made at the time of its release. Oh, so maybe Pirates came out after, and like
Pirates came out a little bit after. But like
it was like the same. Yeah, same. Pirates 3 was the same year.
I remember we got Shrek 3, Spider-Man 3, and Pirates 3 in the same year. So
like you include Shrek 3.
Hey, it's a 3.
It is a 3.
It's a 3, so I'm counting it.
Are there any threes? I don't know. But yeah, although Pirates 2 and 3 were like a joint production. They were produced back to back. Yeah. So I don't know how they assume the costs for each movie.
Yeah, I don't know either. But I did not know that this was pretty up there too. I mean, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Because especially this is when they started really giving bigger budgets to superhero movies.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. We gotta like, this was like a year before Iron Man and The Dark Knight.
Yeah,
which is kind of crazy. It feels like weirdly like end of an era for superhero movies, and then it's like passing this torch to Iron Man and Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like interesting the timeline of
especially since like at this time it really did feel like an end of an era, because the MCU wasn't a thing yet, the Dark Knight wasn't out like you said, and we weren't 100% sure at this time if we were going to get a Spider-Man 4 or not. There were just rumors.
I'm still pissed that we didn't. I'm like, Sony, you could have just waited like a year for.
Well, that was
Sam
basically
Raimi.
Sam Raimi's argument. Like, I'm not ready yet. Someone was always like, "No, we got to get this out now."
I know, and especially after the, I don't know, lukewarm reception to this movie critically. I feel like you'd want it to, give it time and then release a new one, right?
Well,
I don't know, and
these
it's not like this
studios don't
movie.
like to learn that lesson all that much until like
That's true.
It seems like it takes multiple instances for them to finally be like, oh, maybe we shouldn't like rush things.
And
Yeah.
and that's like another weird thing to me too. Is just like this was, excuse me, oh my god, this was still the highest grossing movie of that year.
Yeah, because like everybody was excited to
Like-
see it. I mean, Spider-Man 2 was such a hit, so I remember
Yeah.
everybody like being excited for this movie. I was very excited for it.
Yeah,
Because I think I was in 2007,
you would
ninth
have been in high school
grade?
at least.
Yeah, I was in
right?
high school. I think I was in ninth
Yeah.
grade, something like
I would
that.
have been like 12 or 11 or 12. I don't know. I think I saw it in the theater. I can't remember for sure. I can't remember that far back, but I know I saw Pirates 3 in theaters. So I hope I saw this movie too in theaters.
I know that I did not see Pirates 3 in theaters. I remember that. But I did see this in theaters, I think 2 or 3 times, because I saw it with my dad, and I think I saw it with my friend Aaron. I don't remember, but I know I saw it in theaters at least twice. Same with, I'm pretty sure I saw Spider-Man 1 and 2 in theaters twice at least as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think I got into them a little late, but I think I saw Spider-Man 3 in theaters. I think I did. Who knows? But yeah, I forgot what we were talking about in the movie. I guess it's Harry and Peter's fight.
Yeah,
is very it's pretty CG heavy.
Yeah, which hey, this was also something that was built up since the first movie, essentially too.
Yeah.
So they were kind of finally paying that off.
Yeah, which was great.
But yeah, it's very CG.
Really...
I still do enjoy this fight though, because I like the stuff with the ring, and then I like the alleyway, and I like how just kind of fast paced everything is. Like they're never like doing the same thing. It's always like they're being chased, or Peter's like having to do this and dodge the razor bats, and like they do some cool stuff like in the alley, especially like Harry with the board. He keeps having to change position and stuff. Like I think it's a pretty fun action scene, but it is very CG, and you can kind of tell when it's very CG. But I still do like this action scene because of that. I think it's fun because things are always moving, different things are always happening. It's keeping you engaged. So I liked it because of that.
Yeah, I still enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed it more from a I guess conceptual like writing standpoint. I liked what they were doing in the fight.
I just
more than how it looked.
Of course, like how the fight ends is, I don't know if it feels like it's got to be like intentional, just how like they're fighting and then like the music just stops and Peter's got like the web lined across and just hear like the boing of Harry hitting the string and then just like hitting his head like several times and like falling down the alley like that.
Yeah,
it's like it's almost comical, especially like the music stops and then you just hear like the boing, like he hits the web. It's like that had to have been meant to be funny, right? But then it's like it turns into this really serious scene. Like Peter's not sure if like he just killed Harry or not.
Yeah. Okay. When like Harry hits like the dumpster and then like falls down.
Yeah.
On the way down, I did go like, oh, like that, like
I know,
like, oh, that
like,
hurt.
Yeah, you see, like just hit the head right on the pipe, and you can hear the sound. And like he hits it again on the dumpster. It's like, well, his head's not okay. Like it just flat. Like if he was just a regular person, he'd be dead.
I don't know how I feel about this plot point.
Like the amnesia. It feels like let's just like take care of this until the end of the movie. Like scoot this aside.
Yeah, it almost feels like it's biding time. I guess
a little bit of a cop out, so like they can just push it. Like okay, we'll resolve this at the end of the movie. Or like the last third.
Yeah. As much as I love this movie, like I really do love this movie, and like, but yeah, certain things like this, I was like, what really?
I guess because they were already juggling
I
so
forgot
much.
it happened. You know,
Yeah.
like before I started the movie, I didn't remember that was even a thing. I was
Yeah.
like, wait, what the fuck?
I'm guessing they just did it because they already had like so much else they had to do, and maybe they just didn't want Harry to be like attacking Peter in like every other scene.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's like it is like I get why they did it, but it does feel like okay, it's like the easy way out essentially. Like we'll just give him amnesia, hits his head, and then like of course he'll get it back at the end, towards the end,
yeah,
and then we'll just like continue on like nothing happened.
yeah. I guess I want to go back because we didn't mention the Sandman. We
Oh
didn't
yeah, you
mention
know that's a pretty
Marco.
big thing. We should.
Yeah, Marco Flint.
Because
I believe
yeah,
is his name.
Marco Flint. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I have to say I think there was like one transition or like the way they like went from one scene to another in this movie that bothered me, and I think it was when uh the the venom goo like attaches itself to Peter's bike and they ride away, and then it like cuts to like the police chasing Marco Flint.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It felt too fast paced. It felt like it was just trying to throw too many things in at once. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would have liked if it like
Oh.
went to Marco Flint and then maybe cut back to Peter and Mary Jane riding away on the bike.
Yeah, it's kind of
Something.
just like one of those things like, okay, next plot point, next plot point.
Yeah,
Instead of like
this
a
movie
kind of
doesn't.
smoother transition.
Yeah, the fact that there's like 3 villains in this movie does make it feel like it's hard for it to just pace itself well.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you would do it better. I don't know. I think like I do kind of agree, like maybe cut out one of the villains, but hey, I don't know. I admittedly like the black suit stuff because I think it does work well. It works well like symbolically for Peter in this movie.
Yeah.
But
I really like
kind
how
of feel well here just like I feel like the black suit stuff should have been kind of like, oh, it happens in this movie and then Venom doesn't happen until like the next movie. You know what I mean?
Yes, no, I know exactly what you mean because that's how I wanted them to do it. I remember when this was coming out and hearing like there was going to be all these villains and then Venom would be at the end. I was like, I'd really like if they just set up the black suit in this and then have Venom be like just the sole villain in the next one. But they didn't want to do that.
Yeah, and it's like it's just such a strange like idea for them to like suddenly be like, oh yeah, there's an alien in this without ever really mentioning it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it just kind of
so
like comes from a little comet and it's like, oh, okay, like the alien thing exists here.
Again, I remember I think Doug Walker said like, yeah, what if the Jameson's son went to space and then you had a scene with him and they bring back the venom goo on the ship or something.
Yeah,
I think that would have really worked.
That's how it happens in the 90s series.
Yeah, like it didn't have to like infect Jameson's son or anything like that.
No, he just brings it back.
Yeah, because the way it happens in the movie, it's literally just thrown in.
Yeah, and it's like it just so happens to land right next to Peter.
Yeah, it's like okay. That's why I think it would have worked as just a symbolic thing if it was just like it only interacted with Peter, and it is sort of this like, you know, kind of anomaly that like, oh yeah, it happens to work with Peter. But then yeah, set it up for the next movie because yeah, there's too many villains in this movie for it to really work well in terms of pacing. I still think the movie works pretty well given everything though.
Yeah, for having 3 villains, I think this movie like it really could have been a much bigger mess because you know we have other instances now of movies trying to cram too many villains in, and most of the time it just doesn't end up well. I think the max you can do is maybe 2. Like the Batman movies, I think usually do like a pretty good job because like they usually if there's more than 2, like if there's a third or fourth one, they usually have pretty minor roles. And they might only be in 1 or 2 scenes. Like, oh, hey, this villain exists. Like, as I think in we talked about the Batman that had Riddler and Penguin, and if you want to count like Catwoman, because like she goes back and forth between being a villain and anti-hero though, but she kind of butt heads with Batman a little bit, but let's just say 3 villains in that.
Yeah.
I thought that movie was able to balance it pretty well. Same with like the Dark Knight, even Joker, Two-Face, and then Scarecrow has like a quick cameo.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I even just talking about other Spider-Man movies like The Amazing Spider-Man 2 that tried to have too many villains. That was much more of a mess than this movie.
Yeah, I think the big thing with this movie is like, man, Marco Flint is such a great character in theory.
Yeah.
In this,
I really liked Sam Raimi's version of Sandman, like what they did with his character.
Oh yeah, I do too. But like it could have been incredible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't think he's in it enough.
Yeah. The scenes he is in, I think, are pretty good though.
Like, I don't know. I feel like Eddie Brock is in this more somehow. Like, he felt like he was weirdly more of a focus. I really think like this should have ended with, I don't know, the black suit, the Venom symbiote, like attaching itself to Eddie Brock, and that would be the next
really cool
movie.
ending. Yeah.
We're talking about should haves. Like I don't know if we should talk about should haves, but yeah, it is like very clunky the way this.
Since we're talking about Sandman though, because this is, I think, probably like the scene where the CGI is still really good for its time. Of course, the scene with Sandman, like he becomes Sandman and he's putting himself back together, still looks fantastic.
Yeah, and it works well with the character. It doesn't like
the way the music is in the scene too, and him trying to grab the pen for his daughter. It's a great scene. And then the transition from like CG Sandman to like back to the actor, I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
Like if you look closely, you can kind of see like, okay, right there is probably where it happens, but it's pretty seamless and it looks pretty good still to this day.
Yeah, I agree. It looks great.
I just got to shout out that scene. I love that scene. Probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
There's
no dialogue even.
I do remember like the how it should have ended video on this movie because I think we watched that a lot when we were younger. And I do remember, like, them talking about the bird.
Yeah.
Like
just a bird will fly away.
The molecular mass, like, the weight changed. Like, it's a bird will fly away. It's like, they don't have cameras on this thing?
I guess not, yeah. It's like,
whatever.
Okay, no cameras. No one wanted to do
those are things that do feel like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like probably, like, 1 and 2 have, like, contrivances like that, but you don't really notice them because they just feel natural.
Yeah, this feels a bit more forced.
Yeah, and it feels like there's a bit too many of them. You know?
Yeah.
Again, still like the movie, but I do want to say the scene before this with Marco Flint was great when he's running away from the police, and he goes into this apartment. And at first, it's like you don't know who this guy is or anything.
You just think he's breaking into somebody's apartment.
Yeah, and it's like, oh shit! Like there's this like kid there with like a ventilator or whatever. It's like, oh my god, what the fuck is gonna happen? And then what does he do?
He has letters from her, and he puts them under her.
Yes,
her
that's
pillow.
right. Yeah, I liked that, and they like refuse delivery. He was like writing letters to his daughter. Yeah, just like, and it just like immediately makes you go like, oh, okay. And it makes you like feel for this character.
Yeah, Raimi's good at that with his villains.
Yeah, I know. The dramatic weight of these villains is so well done. That's why I wish he was in this more. I think everything that he does in the movie is great. But it's like, oh man,
I think it's like signs like that where there's like so much good stuff there. Like that's like Sam Raimi was originally like the Sandman was supposed to be the main villain of the movie. So like all the stuff he's in, like you can kind of see, I think, where they were going with him with that. And yeah, I think if he'd been more the vocal point, like what we got with him was already really good. So just like imagine if he had gone to be kind of the main villain.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think if like Sandman and Harry were the only villains in the movie, it would have been fine.
Yeah, I almost kind of hate to call Sandman a villain in this too, because he's really
Because
like he's just trying to get money for his daughter. He's not like
yeah,
doing it for himself. I mean, it doesn't like make his actions okay, but like he's not doing it for himself.
yeah, I like that a lot. Very
All,
like,
all he wants to do is help his sick, dying daughter.
yeah, it reminds me of like how Walter White is in the beginning of Breaking Bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like very sympathetic, doing this, kind of, for his family, and yeah, I think that makes this character very likable, and I like Thomas Hayden Church a
Yeah,
lot in
I
the
thought he was
role.
really good in the role.
Yeah, and just the way they like do, just the way this character like acts and everything is so like interesting. I do have to say it does feel like, because I mentioned like, okay, Venom is like an alien and they just never address it, right?
Yeah.
I do kind of feel like this movie doesn't fit, with the villains don't fit quite as well with the first two movies, because it's like, oh, there's like this guy made of sand who can just fly everywhere,
Mm-hmm.
and there's like an alien, uh and then there's Harry. Like Harry is grounded in this universe, but like the
No,
other
he's
two
not. He
like
can
are
fly in a glider, not grounded
not grounded at all.
because he
That
can
didn't
fly.
happen.
He flies on a glider, therefore he's not grounded. Get it?
Can I say I do like, sometimes in movies it feels like, a bit of a cop out when they just go back to a previous like idea in a
Yeah.
franchise. It's like the complaints with like them just making another Death Star in Star Wars, or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in this, it works really well. I don't know. I liked seeing some of the Goblin stuff and how Peter reacts to it. Like again, he's like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
hate
I
these
hate
things."
those things. Yeah. The Razorbacks.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like, it's established in the universe.
Yeah.
So there's no.
I liked the fact that they didn't just have Harry become Green Goblin too, because in the
Yeah,
comics, Harry just becomes the Green Goblin. He takes on the Green Goblin persona, like he can do the voice, and he acts just like his dad did. That wouldn't have worked in this. James Franco trying to imitate Willem Dafoe's performance.
although that would have been probably entertaining.
That probably would have been, but like, I'm glad.
Yeah, you
like,
can't really.
like he's called, like, usually in the credits he's referred to as New Goblin.
Yeah, I
But
remember like the
it's
Spider-Man
really,
3 game.
yeah,
Too.
but it's like it's really just Harry.
Yeah, it's Harry.
Just Harry. Like he doesn't go by anything. Doesn't the mask he wears just like covers like a little bit of his face, but he usually fights
Hagrid.
without it.
No,
Huh?
Hagrid. It's just Harry.
Harry.
Yeah, I agree. The fact that they didn't just try to do the exact same thing again was nice, and the new look is cool. Again, I wish he was in it more. I wish he was more of a focus. I mean, I like that the movie focuses a lot on Peter, like, of course, but yeah, I think like having 3 villains was too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like all the stuff with Harry in this movie too. It's like a very good arc for this character, and it felt very natural too.
Yeah. In some ways, you feel happy for him getting amnesia though, because he can just kind of go back to having this normal life, and he's obviously he's happy. He's not like consumed with hate and revenge for Spider-Man killing his father. It's just it gets to kind of be happy again. It's like, oh, I wish that he could just stay like this. Like, you almost wish he'd keep the amnesia for his own sake.
Yeah.
But of course, he's gonna get it back eventually, get his memory back.
Yeah,
but it was fun to see like him and Peter like friends again, like scenes like that where there's kind of Peter's hanging out with him and they've got like the basketball and they're just like tossing the basketball around, like, oh, we tried out for varsity. I like scenes like that.
Yeah, I kind of almost wish that they played that up more or something, because I guess just the way it is now, the amnesia thing, just it really does feel like a way to like be like, let's ignore this part for a while so we can focus on the other 2 things that are going on. But I really wish there was a bit more of like when Harry does come back, from like he remembers everything. I wish there was a little bit more of a struggle with him of like, my God, like that's how I was before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like he grapples with the idea like again of like it's my best friend. Like and like all the time recently spent with him is like has been good.
Yeah.
And like I wish he grappled with that more because he basically just goes right back into being a villain.
Yeah.
And I think
Like
that's
he
kind of lame.
like sneaks up on Mary Jane in her apartment and like takes her
Yeah.
hostage. Like, you better do this or I'm gonna hurt Peter. Then the court, he makes them like break up, and yeah, then it's like, okay, I don't like Harry anymore. So yeah,
Yeah,
like I said, if
it's
we
just
could see him kind of like
weird.
struggle with it a little bit more, it would have been nice. But they were already trying to do like so much stuff. I'm sure that's like
Yeah,
we just don't have time to do
it
that.
does feel like this movie was rushed in a way. And they weren't able to fine tune some of those things.
Yeah, because they got like the revenge story. I mean, with Sandman going on, they have
Yeah.
the black suit story going on, and like they've got the Harry storyline, Peter and MJ's relationship, and it's like they have to have scenes with all this type of stuff, and they just don't have time to like kind of go in more in depth at certain things. That's why it would have been better just to like let's push the Venom storyline, for the next movie, and just like have this deal with Harry and Sandman maybe, and just
Yeah.
focus on those kind of storylines. So
Yeah, it's just it's very all over the place. And yeah, there's a lot of like let's push this aside for a bit. Because like Sandman, well, like we'll kind of get there. There's a whole parade or whatever ceremony for Spider-Man because he saves Gwen Stacy.
they love me.
I was about to say Gwen Stefani. Jesus
That's so
Christ.
funny. That's funny.
But yeah.
Yeah, I
love
thought
me.
it funny that I always thought it was funny that they decided to put Gwen Stacy in this movie.
Yeah, because she's supposed to be like Peter's girlfriend before Mary Jane, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
What's funny too is I saw like some discussion on this I think like last week, and I never really thought about this, but it's very true. Gwen in this movie is a model. If you remember, like the scene she's introduced, she's modeling. Mary Jane is a model in the comics. So it's funny that like she's doing what Mary Jane does. And then someone like said, what's funny is a lot of ways, the Mary Jane in these movies and Gwen Stacy, they're almost switched. Like Mary Jane acts a lot more like Gwen Stacy does in the comics, and then Gwen Stacy in this movie acts a little bit more like Mary Jane does in the comics.
Yeah,
and I never really like heard that before. It never really dawned on me. I was like, yeah, that's pretty much true. So it's like it's funny that they not only put Gwen's. I was about to say Gwen Stefani, Gwen Stacy in this movie. I blame you. In this, like, let's have her be a model, like Mary Jane, and then like have there be like this love triangle. It just like
it was
her role felt not that needed.
Oh, Ashley is my cat is meowing for food.
All right, I guess I'll just talk a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
So I'll just keep going with that. So, for our viewers here, the fact that they switched around those characters and kind of like their personalities and roles, it just wasn't something I really thought about until I heard that, and I just had to agree. So yeah, who's the actress who plays Gwen? I forget her name.
I'm pretty sure it's Bryce Dallas Howard, who is Ron Howard's daughter, I believe.
Yeah, what's funny isn't she like a natural redhead?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
Kirsten Dunst
because she's Ron Howard's daughter.
Yeah, and then Kirsten Dunst is blonde. So
I know that's also weird.
Yeah, I just never really thought about that with this movie before until I read that, and it's like, yeah, those are all really funny coincidences. So, but yeah, she's in here. I remember like hearing that she was in this movie back when it was coming out, and it's like, oh, it's interesting. Like, what role would Gwen have at this point? So yeah, she's just kind of be there to be more of a love triangle, and
yeah,
I do
Peter
think that does
Bryce Dallas Howard does a good Bryce Dallas Howard does a good job at playing her though. Like,
Yeah, no, I liked her.
the stuff she's given her.
Yeah, she was fine. I didn't like just like her version of Gwen or anything. I thought she was
Yeah,
fine with the role she was given.
I wish they could have done it better, or like expanded her in the next movies or something if they ever did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought she was good. Yeah, I did kind of think it was funny, like when they're showing like her modeling. I was like, wait a minute, like yeah, Mary Jane's a model, and like I thought Gwen Stacy, isn't she a scientist? At least in like the Amazing Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, in the original comics, I don't remember what her profession was. I don't believe she was a scientist though.
Okay. She was at least like helping Dr.
I-
Connors in the Amazing Spider-Man movies or
Yeah,
something.
I know that. I'm pretty sure like her and Peter like went to school together in the comics. I could be wrong about that too, but I don't remember what she did as a career. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But yeah,
But yeah,
she was
so
here.
she like almost falls out of a building after like some crazy crane accident.
Yeah,
Which
Spider-Man saves her.
which I don't know. I feel like it should have been like the Sandman or Goblin that did that.
Yeah,
So
instead of
there's
just like
something,
random
there's
crane.
something to keep them in the movie, you know?
Yeah.
It was very like, because in the other movies, it always feels like there's some kind of like thing that the villain does to, you know, the bank scene and two, or like the parade in one, just like something. But yeah, in this, it's like, oh, weird crane mishap.
Malfunctions and then like
Yeah, very,
destroys the building that Gwen's modeling in, and then she's falling down. And Spider-Man's got to catch her, and then she falls for Spider-Man.
yeah, very weird. Well, I mean, I don't know, weird, but just like could have been done better, I guess.
Yeah, that's when we get introduced to Eddie too. Like the whole, also like just the whole scene with Eddie and Captain Stacy is just funny too because they're like so nonchalant about Gwen, like basically dangling like from the buildings. Like, what's she doing up there? I think that's even like made it a joke in the how it should have ended. Is like kind of how calm they almost are about it. Like, oh, what's she doing up there?
I think he's like meaning like, what is she doing in the building? Maybe I don't know.
But he's just like so kind of nonchalant though about like his daughter up there like hanging for her dear life about to fall.
It is funny.
I think at least it's just kind of funny.
I did think the line was legitimately funny when Eddie Brock is like, "Hi, I'm Eddie Brock, like photographer, and I'm dating your daughter." That was funny. Like I thought that was legitimately like well delivered.
Yes.
But yeah, I didn't even think about that line where he's like, "What's she doing up there?" But now looking back, I was like, "Okay, yeah, that's weird."
Try not to fall to her death. But I think that is even the joke that the how it should have ended made. Like, just try not to fall to her death. Show some dang concern. So I always get a laugh out of that scene.
Oh yeah, I think in the how it should have ended video, it's like Stan Lee who says it, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Which I have to say, Stan Lee's cameo in this movie was really touching.
I love his cameo. Yeah.
I guess it was like I was not expecting it. Yeah, I was like that hits really.
I love that's one of my favorite cameos of his.
Yeah,
and yeah, especially now after his passing, it definitely hits home.
Yeah, great little because in the other two movies, he's usually just like guy who saves someone from
from like debris,
rubble, or
yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was a great cameo. I like that scene too in the beginning because I think that's when Stanley shows up, or sometime a little bit later. I mean, Peter's like watching the news footage of himself as Spider-Man.
Yeah,
and like there's those kids watching, like, oh, Spider-Man's so cool.
Yeah,
and Peter's just like,
oh, stick around, it'll start again soon.
It's gonna start again.
Yeah, they're like, yeah.
I don't know. That's just so fun. Like again, Tobey Maguire is so great at the comedy in these movies, which I feel like we're just like dying to talk about Bully Maguire in this movie, but we haven't gotten to him
quite yet. It has to be mentioned. It has to be talked about, though. Of course.
We'll get to it. It's incredible. But yeah, so Spider-Man, there's this whole ceremony for Spider-Man because they're going to give the key to the city to Spider-Man because she saved Gwen, who is the daughter of the police chief. And then Sandman attacks. There's a whole fight with him and Sandman. And it's really just to get Peter to know Marco Flint's face, really, in terms of plot.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's just to introduce the two to each other. This is another thing I think is missing from the movie, is like there needed to be more interaction between Peter and Marco before, I don't know, even just within the fights, you know what I mean? Because like the other two movies were really smart in how they were like,
because
Norman is like Harry's father.
Yeah,
that's how Peter knows him. And then like, okay, Dr. Otto like is, you know, doing something for Harry.
Yeah, well,
it's just like
it has Norman and Otto build a relationship with Peter before they become villains.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, it doesn't with Flint Marco.
And there could have been
before he meets Peter.
I feel like that could have been a really interesting dynamic in a way, because Peter's very like sympathetic towards Norman, and like when he finds out he's Norman, and you know, he's sympathetic towards Octavius because like they knew each other.
Yeah.
And this would have been an interesting dynamic to have it be like Peter doesn't know this person well enough, so he is not as sympathetic. And it kind of is like that, but it doesn't like have Peter slowly realize that there's more to him than there is. You know?
Yeah, because they only have that one
it's
interaction. Yeah, because they only have that one interaction, and then the next time he learns about Marco, it's like, oh, this is actually the man that killed your uncle, which I know a lot of people are very upset. At the time, they basically retconned it being the guy who got away from Peter, into Flint Marco being the one who killed his uncle.
Yeah.
But I think like the way it was done was fine, because like Flint Marco did it, you know, it reveals, like, I know this is skipping to the end, but it's like he had the gun.
Well,
yeah, it's like he had the gun, so technically he did, but like the other guy kind of startled him in a way, and that's what kind of pulled it. So it's like the other guy was still like responsible too. It's not that big a deal. I think it's still, I don't think it takes away from the first movie, is what I'm essentially trying to say.
No, I don't think
because if Peter still stopped that guy, he wouldn't have startled Marco, and Marco wouldn't have fired the gun on accident. So
yeah,
it doesn't take that away. But I know that a lot of people were upset with that when it was like when this movie first came out and all that. But I don't think too big a deal now. But yeah, that's like, you know, they had that one interaction, and then he's told that this is the actual killer, and then Peter like makes up this scenario in his head of, you know, Flint just like,
I liked that,
dragging his uncle out of the car and like throwing him on the ground and killing him out of just pure hatred. Like that's how Peter imagined, like, oh, this person's just so awful. That's how they killed my uncle.
Yeah,
how else would they have killed my uncle? So he makes that scenario in his head.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I love that because it was so realistic. Like I feel like that's how someone would react to that information being delivered to, you know, like I don't know. I feel like whenever, you know, people think about another person that they don't know about, or they don't know the situation quite right, they fill in gaps and everything, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you can't blame Peter. Like, you can't blame people.
No.
Like, they don't, you know, when you hear somebody killed somebody, like, you immediately think usually like, oh, well, is on purpose. Like, they, you know, like, why else would anyone like kill someone I love? Like, he just, you know, must have just been an evil guy, and that's it. So
yeah,
it
was
Peter
like
fills in
really
this gap,
good.
It's very realistic, like you said. You don't blame Peter for like filling in these gaps that he doesn't know. Like this is just how he thinks it happened.
Yeah, great scene. And yeah, that's one of the other few scenes that Rosemary Harris is in. She doesn't do too much in the scene, from what I remember.
That's right. I almost forgot
I
that
kind of
she was actually
wish.
even in this scene. So I guess
Yeah,
she's
I
in
wish
three
she did
scenes
a
then,
little more.
because she she does speak. I think she has like one line though. Like it's the focus is more on Peter and his reaction to it. When he
Yeah.
makes that.
Oh, there is another scene. I can remember 4 scenes in total now because there is a scene.
Oh yeah, okay. The one where he's telling Aunt May that Spider-Man killed Flint. That's right.
Yes, yeah, which was another really good scene.
Yes, I can't believe I forgot about that one too. Okay,
Yeah.
so she's in 4 scenes, not 2.
Yeah. So
I just
guess
watched
we'll
this
try to get.
yesterday too, by the way, so you'd think I'd remember a little bit better, but I guess not.
That's fine. I do have to say that the pacing of this movie sometimes it's like hard to remember certain things because they don't.
Yeah, because
They
this
don't.
one just
Not
like kind of
everything
jumps around.
flows.
Yeah, because it's got so many plots. It just kind of keeps jumping back and forth between them, and
Yeah.
there's not as good a flow as with the first and second one.
Yeah.
But that is also like it's a really good scene. It's very in character. This is when Peter has the suit. This is only the second time that him and Flint have met, and at this point he's under the influence of the black suit of the Venom symbiote, and all it does is like now he knows like, oh, you killed my uncle, and Peter's just out for blood. He wants to kill Flint, and he even tells Spider-Man killed him, and it was already pretty implied in Spider-Man 2 that she knew he was Spider-Man. But it's like this is like flat out. I think even confirms it because she's like talking to him because he says, of course, Spider-Man killed her, and she asks like him, well, what happened? Spider-Man doesn't kill people. She doesn't say, of course, like, oh, you don't kill people. You're Spider-Man. She's Spider-Man, but you can tell like she's talking to him because she asks like, oh, what happened? And like Peter almost kind of knows that like she's talking to him because he's like. He didn't say like, well, Spider-Man. He's like, well, I thought you'd be happy. He's so like kind of taken back by the response because he just thinks that, oh, yay, like you killed
again,
the person.
The lack of self-awareness or just awareness in general. Like, yeah, he thinks that Aunt May is going to be like ecstatic that he killed, the person who killed Uncle Ben. Yeah, which is another just like, I mean, it's a theme that the first movie I feel established too. Like the revenge is not worth it, and I think that's really played well in this movie. Yeah, I have to say the fight between Sandman and Black Suit Spider-Man is great.
That was like probably one of the most brutal fights too. I think we got in the trilogy. I mean, you can tell like Peter's like being more brutal in this fight. Like, I especially love how he takes Sandman's head and like mashes it. He gets his train and like the teeth are flying out.
Yeah, it's great. Like, but yeah, I love the little exchange between the two of them, where Peter's like, you killed Uncle. Like, you remember when you killed Uncle Ben? And Marco's just like, what does it matter to you? And he just says everything. And it's like, it's like that line I still remember. Like, it kind of gives me chills.
That was in the trailers too. I remember that line in the trailers.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, yeah, you can kind of understandably you can understand how.
Like, it almost makes you think even if Peter didn't have the black suit on, like he'd still almost be this way.
Yeah.
This is the man who killed my uncle.
The thing about the symbiote, I think Dr. Connor says, like, it feeds off of the host.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like Peter creates this monster in a way.
Yeah.
It's not like it influences him as much as, I feel like in other movies it would maybe be like that. I think that's like an interesting thing. I think it does like feed back into them in a way, but
yeah, I think so too.
But yeah, just like I like that, and I liked more Dr. Connors. Again, I wish we got more Spider-Man movies and he got to be a villain. That would have been really great.
What could have been?
Because again, like as a kid, like I didn't know who the hell this character was. So
I did, and I was so hoping that like, maybe they're setting him up. If we get Spider-Man 4, we'll get the Lizard.
Yeah, but could you imagine like not knowing and just being like, oh my god, they're gonna make that character like a villain? Like that's
Yeah,
crazy.
that would have
You
been
know?
really like. I think Sam Raimi would have done really well with that too, because we would have had two
Yeah,
prior movies of him like having a relationship with Peter that's where he's not a villain yet.
yeah. And again, that actor, Dylan Baker, great actor.
Ah,
I just like his dialogue in this movie.
what could have been though? I would have loved to see the
I
Lizard
know.
done in these movies instead of how we
It's
got him
like,
in the Amazing Spider-Man.
it's like funny. There's like talks in film communities and stuff about like what are like the mega tragedies of like cinema. Like what are like films that we didn't get that could have been amazing. Like everyone talks about like Orson Welles' Magnificent Ambersons, because he made Citizen Kane, and then a year after he made The Magnificent Ambersons, and it was like completely butchered by the studio. Like tons of the movie was like cut out, and none of that footage survived over the years. I think they burned it or something. I think they just like straight up burned it because they like
Wow,
were like, well, it's easier than keeping it,
burn it.
which is
Some just want to
crazy.
watch the world burn.
It's a really good movie on its own, but like, wow, I can't imagine how good it could have been. I weirdly think of like the Spider-Man trilogy in the same way. I'm like, if we could have gotten more of these movies, like the world would be better.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I think Toby and Kirsten signed on for like Spider-Man 4 and 5, and like they originally were going to film them back to back. Like they had
yeah,
basically plans to do another trilogy, and it seemed like Toby and Kirsten were on board.
I know. I think that these writers and just everyone working on it were so good that they could have kept doing it. I think this movie really probably suffered from like probably time restraints and stuff like that. Is what I imagine.
Yeah. And then again, like Sony just wanted to kind of rush out Spider-Man 4 before I think Sam was satisfied with the script. Because
Yeah,
I heard that he was like a little dissatisfied with Spider-Man 3, and you can understand why. Some of the things he wanted to do, I think, just didn't quite pan out. So he kind of wanted to redeem himself a little bit with the fourth one. But yeah, once again, I don't know how. Like, I'm pretty sure like these are from interviews and stuff like that, but I'm not 100% sure. But it makes sense.
yeah.
But
I
he
know
wanted
that
to redeem himself
Sony.
with 4, and
Yeah,
Sony wanted him to get a script out way sooner than he was ready. He wasn't ready, and I think especially with Sony pushing the stuff they did with Spider-Man 3 and everything, he probably just didn't want to go through that again, and just figured, just go ahead and do your reboot. You want to? I know you want to. So
yeah.
just do
And
that,
then we got
and then we
those
did.
great movies. I mean, I don't think the Amazing Spider-Man movies are like the worst things in the world. I think
Definitely
it's
not
just
the
more
best things.
upsetting. It's just more upsetting that we didn't get Sam Raimi's films. Like if
Yeah,
the Amazing Spider-Man films existed and Sam Raimi's films existed, that would have been fine. Like I'd be happy.
yeah,
But it's like, oh, we got you
yeah. Well,
guys put
we
out
got
this
these. Yeah, we
instead
got
of
these instead of Spider-Man 4 and
Raimi.
5.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah. So that's obviously disappointing. Uh, I feel like in a way it's nice like that we got No Way Home and we got a lot of Sam Raimi stuff in that, but
yeah.
still what could have been.
What could have been?
Yeah. I remember hearing that like Bruce Campbell was going to play Mysterio for like
Yeah,
a scene
yeah.
in
I think
Spider-Man 4.
it's how it was going to open with
That would have
Spider-Man
been
like capturing Mysterio and played by Bruce Campbell, and it
that
would have
would have
been
been
great.
amazing.
I gotta hear your opinion though on Bruce Campbell's cameo in this movie though. How you rank it up
Oh,
with the others?
it's really really fucking funny.
It's pretty great.
It's probably my favorite of the three. I do like Snooty Usher in two, but
Yeah,
just like little things like the fucking whistle. It's,
yeah.
it's so funny to me.
Hello. Yeah. Oh, romance. I am French. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like clearly not French.
He's just like doing like the silly French accent, but
Yeah,
that
which
is
at
what they
first
said.
I was kind of like,
Becker.
I was like, is this kind of like a a French stereotype? I was like, is this like outdated? But then like it's so clearly like the character is not French either,
Yeah,
and he's like
no,
playing
it's
it up
funny. Yes,
that
it's
it's
funny.
like, oh, okay, that's amazing. That's so fucking funny. And yeah, just like whenever Peter is like he like waves to Gwen and then like waves like goodbye to her, and like yeah,
I keep stopping them from coming. Like, oh, okay, no, no, yeah,
yeah.
it's great. Oh yeah, he's fantastic.
I mean,
Very
Bruce
funny.
Campbell is just so much fun in like any role he plays, but yeah,
Indeed.
I think this is the funniest cameo of the three.
Yeah, this one was pretty great.
Yeah, I also like. We have to imagine it's just the same guy, right?
Yeah, I think that's
Like
everybody's head.
probably.
That's everyone's headcanon, pretty much.
Yeah,
It's the
I
same
would just
guy.
again, if like he played Mysterio in the next movie, it would have been even funnier.
I would have loved to have seen that.
That would have been, even if it was just like one scene, like it's
Still would have loved to see. I love Mysterio, so that would have been really
Spider-Man
great.
beats in the beginning or something like that. That would have been great.
Yep, I agree. I would have loved to seen it, but we didn't get to.
Yeah. Oh, well, we can't keep talking about what could have been.
We'll be here all night.
I know. Well, yeah. So, yeah, Peter basically essentially for the movie at that point kills Sandman, and then we get that scene that we talked about with Aunt May. I keep mixing up their names because they both start with M, like Mary Jane, May. I don't know. So he's talking to Aunt May about it, and then what happens? I'm trying to think.
When he talks to Aunt May about what?
After he talks to Aunt May about like Spider-Man killed.
Okay, yeah, she just tells them that Spider-Man doesn't kill people, and that she's gonna like, oh, it's not for us to decide like who deserves to die or who lives, and I'm because Peter's still like under the influence of the black suit, so he doesn't really like, he kind of understands what Aunt May says, but I don't think he like really takes it to heart.
Right.
We're not, because we're not really like shown what he thinks about that, because then we kind of just, it's kind of like the movie's just like, okay, well, you need to move on. So we don't get to see Peter like really reflect on that or anything, or like kind of second guess himself, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Or it's like, was that the right thing to do? Is that something Spider-Man should have done? We don't get to see that. So the movie just kind of goes forward.
I guess we should talk about like Eddie Brock, because we're getting into like black suit Spider-Man territory here.
Sure.
And like emo Peter Bully Maguire.
Yeah, we should talk about Bully Maguire for sure.
Okay, well, first let's talk about the Daily Bugle and like what's going on there, because I like, because you said in the beginning, like, okay, Spider-Man is at like his peak in a way of like how everyone's receiving him. Everyone likes Spider-Man. And I liked how that was reflected in like, oh, the Daily Bugle isn't like the #1 newspaper in New York at this point. It's like the New York Times and the Post.
I like the little scene
like,
with Hoffman and Jonah too. Like it's hip, it's now, it's wow.
Oh yeah,
that whole scene. It's just like,
Jonah
so
clearly is not having it.
Yeah, I mean, you could really just cut that whole scene and not miss anything. But I really like that scene.
Oh, it's great.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Like Hoffman, like who's he played by again? Isn't it
Ted Raimi? Sam Raimi.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. Like, he's funny though. I really like, for such a minor character. Like, I love his character in these films. He's just really funny. Like, he's always trying to get JJ's approval, and he just like never wants it. Like, even in the second one, there's like that line, like, doesn't anyone care what I want? And he just like comes in, I do. He's like, shut up, go away.
Oh no, isn't that in this movie?
No, that was in the second one.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought I was looking up quotes earlier, and I thought that was from this movie.
No, that's from the second one.
Okay.
No, you're right. No, you're right. It's from the third one, because that's the scene where it's like, he wants a staff job. He wants a staff job. Doesn't anyone care what I want? Okay,
yeah,
that's right.
That's right.
Right. I don't know why I thought it was from two. You're right. But, yeah, it just comes in, I do.
Like, shut up. Yeah, I like the whole thing with just the blood pressure, like, watch your blood pressure.
Yeah, J.K. Simmons is great in every scene he's in. Again, like,
yeah,
the scene with the blood pressures are very funny.
Yeah, it was a funny way.
I love seeing like just all that like medication too on his desk.
Yeah,
It's already funny. And then like the constant like she's the like that buzzer just shakes his whole desk.
no, I don't know. Like, what in the world would do that?
I don't know. I was like, why?
It's so funny.
Not that one. Not that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole scene's pretty funny.
It's
Like
so
him trying like not to. I like how we actually get a scene where it's like I'm trying to like watch my anger because he's kind of like known for being like the angry guy.
Yeah, it was a good way to like not
funny.
play the same joke like again.
Yeah, funny scene.
Yeah, that was really.
That was all just going off of like I like Hoffman. Like he's just like such a minor character, but I love everyone in the Daily Bugle. They're all really funny usually, or like there's something good about them all. But
yeah,
that was just like a long way of saying I like Hoffman essentially.
Yeah, Hoffman's great. Yeah, I love all the Daily Bugle characters, and yeah, Hoffman. I mean, obviously he's Sam Raimi's brother, so they clearly have like they know what how to work off each other.
Yeah,
and like
that's great.
Yeah, Ted Raimi was also like he played like Henrietta, the monster version of her in Evil Dead 2 when she's like all in like the fat suit and everything. So he's been in Sam Raimi's films for like ever too. So so Eddie Brock is like the new photographer at the Daily Bugle, and Peter kind of butts heads with him, and then Eddie Brock photoshops like a photograph of Spider-Man that Peter had taken, right?
Well, you got to talk about why he does that. We got to talk about that first, because this is when he like this is when Peter has the black suit and he finds out like Marco's close, like he follows him into the sewers. Remember, and like Eddie gets there and he's like trying to take pictures of Spider-Man. Spider-Man breaks his camera, of course, and then he says the line,
"See ya, chump."
Jumps into the sewer, and then he's like obviously mad that like Spider-Man. Like to him, it's like Spider-Man just broke my camera for no reason. So he gets he gets upset at Spider-Man and then he's like, okay, well he takes out a little camera and he just kind of gets the background and then like he photoshops Spider-Man like stealing money.
Oh,
that's what he does.
I didn't even catch that aspect.
Yeah, that's why he's taking pictures because like, what is he taking pictures of? He's just getting like the background.
Yeah, I always wondered that too.
Spider-Man. He photoshops Spider-Man in with money like in his hand, like Spider-Man robbed the bank. Yeah, that's what he did.
That makes a lot more sense because I always wondered, like, he just starts taking pictures, but he looks like he's doing something shady.
Yeah, he's just getting the background to Photoshop Spider-Man, and that's what he was doing there.
Okay, all right, that makes a lot more sense. And yeah,
it could be a little bit of a confusing scene because like they never say outright, and then it's just easy to like not miss that detail or to miss that detail.
Yeah, and he basically is trying to get a photo of Spider-Man doing something wrong.
Yeah,
because Jameson
said that whoever gets that will get the staff job.
Yeah,
that whole plot point though is kind of like just dropped. Like I guess like it kind of comes back, but
it's more just so that Eddie Brock has a reason to hate Peter.
Yeah, pretty much
Spider-Man. Peter exposes that Brock has manipulated this photo.
And that's where he gets fired, and that's where Eddie Brock wants revenge on Peter Parker.
I like that Jameson is like enough of like a respectful guy that he like actually apologizes through the paper.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, because he like genuinely like even though he like frames Spider-Man as like a bad guy all the time,
he takes his job seriously.
Yeah, like he never like Photoshop stuff like to make Spider-Man,
although I guess he exaggerates.
He exaggerates and stuff, but like he never like photoshops and makes like basically a fake story. Like he always kind of like puts his own spin on things. But like he never just flats out like Photoshop Spider-Man stealing stuff. Like even he's like, I can't do that.
Yeah. Okay. Just because we're on the topic of Jameson, is this the movie where? Yeah, this is it. Where in the final fight, he's like there at the scene, and he's
yeah,
like,
it's his final scene in the whole franchise.
yeah, I guess until No Way Home, but yeah,
Yeah, until No Way Home.
if it's the same version of Jameson, whatever.
No.
But yeah, he's like, Parker, where are you? And like, he's not there because he's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like, he just asks like this little
girl. Yeah,
for,
that whole scene's
for her
great. The
camera.
$100, and he does it, and then yeah, films extra. Like,
yeah, that's great.
That's that was a really funny scene. I mean,
yeah, again,
J.K. Simmons
like doesn't really add anything in terms of like plot, but just funny. It's just funny. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Peter starts doing the emo Peter
the
stuff.
Bully Maguire stuff. Yeah, first before Bully Maguire was usually referred to as emo Peter. Now it's referred to as Bully Maguire.
Yeah, we're old enough that we remember it being called emo.
It was emo Peter at first. Everybody, oh, Peter's acting emo. I mean, like his hair was just black.
Oh, he
like down like kind of over the eye. Like he looked like the stereotypic
like,
emo. So like he was rightfully called emo Peter, like because like didn't have to like make his hair darker and have it like down, like kind of almost covering his eye.
Yeah, that was the funny thing too that I didn't really think about is like the symbiote like makes his hair darker too.
Yeah.
Why?
I guess it's just to show like
just
when
visually.
Visually when he has the suit on. I'm guessing because it's like why did he have to like?
It's so funny because Peter has his hair like normal and then he like passes by just
a mirror and he goes like
a mirror.
Like, he like makes it
like
messier.
An alleyway.
Yeah, it just like makes it messier. So it's like it hangs down a little bit like about here.
Yeah, it's
like
so
okay.
Funny. Yeah, it's literally like if I just started doing.
Yeah, it's like
this. You know?
Yeah, pretty much. Like I guess that's my hairstyle now. Yeah,
it's so funny.
Yeah, it was always funny. Like his hair is just noticeably darker when he has the black suit on.
Yeah, I think that's a tad goofy. Like him actually going into like looking in a mirror and changing his hair is goofy. I don't really mind the way he acts as Bully Maguire though. I think it's actually like pretty appropriate for like the character and just the tone of like a Sam Raimi Spider-Man.
Yeah, because Peter's not evil, so he doesn't just turn into a bad guy and start committing crimes like some other people maybe with the black suit would. He just like in his mind, this is like how a cool, confident person would act.
Yeah,
and that's how
that's another thing
tries to be.
Yeah, it's like it's a nerd's interpretation.
Yes, that's exactly it. And he comes off as very
so funny,
embarrassing, and just like a joke. But like in his mind, he's just like he's hot stuff. Like this is how cool people act. Like a nerd's version of like how cool people act.
Hot stuff. He's apparently hot stuff to like some of the girls. Like
I guess so.
Betty Brant.
Yeah, surprisingly
like for some reason. And then oh god, what's the girl, the daughter of Mr. Dickovich?
Oh, Ursula,
yeah.
Yeah, she just likes Peter no matter what, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
Whether he's regular Maguire or Bully Maguire.
Just like holding a plate of cookies next to him.
Yeah, that's
like, on the phone with
that scene is so funny. It's like, oh, Dr. Connor. Yeah, like the way he acts is just so like over the top.
Yeah, but it's like I don't know, something about it works to me. Like like genuinely, not like in an ironic way that I feel like a lot of people do enjoy it. Which enjoy it however you want. Like I don't care, but I do think it is like fairly appropriate for the character, and like I think it works well. And goddamn, it's just funny.
If you didn't like it, you put some dirt in your eye, so it's a good thing.
Oh my god!
All his lines
are great.
Obviously, like almost all of his lines are meme material. Okay, can we talk now? Because this is pretty much about like where they there. We've kind of like skimmed over like a couple things, like him and Mary Jane. Once Harry kind of gets the amnesia back out of that, he gets his memories back, and then he makes MJ break up with Peter and all that. We're just gonna skip
Oh, yeah.
over
Yeah,
talking about that a little bit just so we can get to like the scene
Peter's
where
like
after they're
gonna
broken
hook
up, Peter's he pretty like clearly like wants to make Mary Jane jealous, so he like takes. I think he knows like Mary Jane works there, so he takes Gwen there. And this is obviously the scene we got to talk about. He takes her to the jazz club that Mary Jane's working at, and I'm talking to our viewers on YouTube now. So I'm watching this with Julian. He had not seen this movie probably like in years. So I think you forgot about all of this stuff, and I forgot about a lot of the like dialogue that was said in the jazz club scene. This whole jazz club scene also feels like such a fever dream in these movies too. Like, am I wrong? This almost feels like a completely different movie. Like the jazz club scene, it's so great though. But it's so like, am I watching Spider-Man? I feel that way every time I watch it. But they go in and he says a line, and you hear Julian laughing about it already. But he says this line, it catches us completely off guard. They can't find a good place to sit. Like I think Gwen says something like, "Oh man, it's like so busy in here. We'll be able to get a seat or something like that." So Peter goes over to one of the waitresses, right up to her ear, and says, "Find us some shade."
It's so funny.
Put some money in her hand. That is the scene where you fell.
I'm sorry. I'm watching the scene again too.
Okay, like, you were so on a chair and you fell off the chair, laughing at that scene because of how off guard it was. Like it caught us so off guard. I was laughing too, but I remember you like fell off your chair. You're on the floor, just. I mean, you're laughing like hysterically right now at it. Like I think every time you watch it, like how did you react to it this time? I wasn't there this time. I wish I could have just at least been there again because your reaction in this scene is always so great.
I think it didn't make me laugh that hard this time
because you at least were aware of it this time.
I was expecting it, but
that one time you weren't.
There's a line before it and after that caught me off guard and made me laugh almost as hard.
Oh man!
When Peter and Gwen are walking into the jazz club, she's like, "Oh, you think I'm like dressed, too fancy or whatever?" And he says you're looking fine, babe.
Yeah.
And then like she laughs and he says like, "Love that little giggle." I like lost it. And then after he like goes up to the waitress or whatever and says like, "Find us some shade," and then like gives her like a 20 or something.
Yeah, it's like something like that.
He says like, "Thanks, hot legs."
Yeah, thanks, hot legs. Like, what does that mean?
I just scream laughed. I was like,
yeah,
oh my god.
Every like line he says while in this jazz club is just hilarious. Like you can't not laugh at it. It's like he's just such a different character at this point. It's so funny. Like, but he's still like Peter is like such an awkward person already, and this just like amps his awkwardness. Like, but he thinks he's like so like hot. I guess like he thinks he's hot stuff. Like he thinks he sounds like really smooth and good here, but it's so funny. It's great.
I'm like, I've got tears in my eyes. It's so fucking funny. Oh my god.
Yeah, again, like that was, I think watching Spider-Man 3 that time with you was like one of my favorite times watching a movie with you because, like I said, I hadn't seen it in a long time either, so it caught me off guard. But like just you falling out of your seat at that, because I've seen you laugh pretty hard at movies. I don't know if I've seen you fall out of your seat while watching a movie before because of laughing, and
I was dying. I was like gasping for air. I was just like,
I forget. Like, did we pause the movie or we probably had to like rewind it or something?
We had to because it was like I was laughing for like at least like 2 minutes. Like at least.
Yeah. I think I was too.
Like 2 minutes is a long time.
Oh yeah. I will probably never forget that. How off guard we were caught by that.
So funny. Yeah, this whole scene just 3 lines like are pretty much right in a row that are just like hilarious.
Toby pulls it off too well.
Yeah, I have to say, yeah, again, like Toby is so funny as Peter. Like, it's great. Uh, but then the scene gets really funny, like, and over the top, and then pretty serious.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
pretty dark.
yeah, like they're sitting down to eat and listen to the band, and Mary Jane is going to perform. But then Peter basically steals the whole show and like starts playing the piano, which like where do you
Yes,
learn to play the
I don't
piano?
know. I was about to say
Whatever.
like we never seen him play the piano before, so but yeah, he's
Wait,
just
wait,
up
wait, wait,
there.
wait. Doesn't Aunt May like say like
In Spider-Man 2
she's
that she
giving,
does piano
yeah, she's giving
lessons.
piano lessons. That's
Yeah,
great.
I guess that's
Okay,
probably
that's
where he
probably
got
where
it
he,
from.
yeah.
Probably.
Huh. Okay. Um anyway, so like yeah, Mary Jane is like gonna sing, but Peter makes it all about himself again, and like uh yeah, just like starts dancing. He like slides on the like across the floor and like starts walking on the bar and shit.
Like,
Which is
who
so
is this?
and then oh my god, he does like this thing where he's just like dig
Take
on
on
this.
this.
Yeah, like starts snapping.
Oh, oh,
Oh, it's
not to
so
mention the
funny.
scene where he like he like takes out
Oh,
the the gust of wind and like it like gusts onto Gwen. She's like that scene.
incredible. Like I have to say too, this movie really, I feel, before this moment, before like emo Peter, Bully McGuire, like it really feels like it has the least amount of like Sam Raimi isms in terms of the style and the goofiness. And then all this happens in like one scene,
I
and
know.
it's so funny. It's like a slow burn to this. Like
It's all leading up
it's
to this.
and I think in a way that was probably too much for people, right? Like
I could see
that,
it be like
like I think,
a little jarring.
yeah, because like the other movies
I mean,
kind of
it
have
is
this
a little jarring of a
balance.
scene, but I think that's kind of
Oh
like
yeah,
what makes it so funny, though.
yeah, it's great. But like the other movies have this balance between like the serious stuff and the funny stuff kind of throughout. Uh, but this movie is kind of like, it's got its funny moments, but like it's pretty. I feel like more serious, more grounded for most of it, and then like this happens. Yeah, it really comes out of nowhere in a way, and but it's oh my god, it's so funny.
Yeah, and it's not just like one or two things. It's like he keeps doing or saying like
Yeah, and
these lines and doing like these crazy things where it's like it does like who is this? Which is
yeah,
even said by Mary Jane, rightfully so.
and I used to think like like oh, this scene must have been like a way for Sam Raimi to like sabotage the whole black suit Venom idea. But now I watch it, I'm like, no, this is a Sam. This just has to be Sam
Mm.
because he like wrote it. It feels very like just so stupid and silly. Uh, but I love it. I that whole scene was so great. Uh,
I wish I could have just watched this particular scene with you again because your
oh yeah,
reactions to it are always like, and it feels like every time you watch it, you like kind of catch something new.
yeah. There was another thing too. Like I had to like put on subtitles to hear this line because I was like, I want to make sure I know every line of this fucking part. But like they're walking to the door of the jazz club, and like it's pretty faint. Like I think like Peter says something like "keep it open there, pops" or something like that. Some like off-screen character. Just like thought that was funny. It's like so rude.
It's great.
But then like I do think also this scene is so over the top, and then Peter did something really serious. Everyone's kind of like fighting Peter because what does he do again? I'm trying to think. Like
Well,
everyone's kind of like
he kind of confronts Mary Jane at the end, you know, because like Gwen eventually catches on, like, oh, you're like doing all this for her, and she
yeah,
apologizes and leaves, and then because it's true, he's doing this all for her, like kind of revenge for breaking up with him,
yeah,
and he's talking with her, and I guess like the security or something comes over, and it's like, you know, I guess I can tell like Mary Jane, someone's talking to Mary Jane, and she doesn't want to talk to them. So they're like trying to make him leave, and they like touch his shoulder, and of course, like Peter being the way he is now is like, oh, you better take your hands off me. And he's Spider-Man, so like they can't force him physically anywhere. So you got like a bunch of guys, and he's just like, you know, getting them off of him, and then of course Mary Jane tries to stop him. Yeah. So, and you know, and of course he hits her, not knowing it's her. Like it truly is an accident. Like he didn't know. Like he's just like swatting people off of him. Like he doesn't know who it is. So like she tries to, and he, you know, hits her.
But it is like oh my god.
Yeah, it's like he still hits her. You know, even if it's like he didn't mean, because he didn't know that was her. You still, you know, you hurt her. Yeah. And that's where finally Peter's like, I got to get rid of this thing. Like.
Yeah,
because all of the stuff he's done like up to then has been like he's done like some pretty, you know, like the stuff with Harry, like that whole fight. We didn't really talk about that. If we want to talk about that, because that happened prior to this too, when Harry gets his memory back.
I think I like that fight a lot more than the one with them. Goblin.
Well, yeah, because that one's not like so CG, because it's not even like it's not like a fight with Spider-Man or, you know, Goblin or anything. It's just like Peter and Harry, because they're not in costume or anything, like neither of them. I mean, Peter wasn't in costume the first time either, but like,
which was something I liked about that fight.
Yeah, because it's like it's not like Spider-Man fighting him. It's Peter.
Yeah,
and this felt like a lot more personal, because they're not flying through the air and doing Spider-Man and Goblin stuff. Like they're just basically using their fists and knives and stuff. And Harry's got some blades.
Brutal fight.
It is very brutal. It's like it feels very personal, because it is.
Yeah, I think it's a really good scene.
Yeah, it's good. It does a good job at like creating tension. Like the choreography is good
too.
Some of the lines and everything.
You're gonna cry.
Yeah, and then it has like a pretty like kind of shocking end to it, where Harry throws the pumpkin grenade and Peter slings it back, and like. At this point, you don't even know, like, is Harry dead? Is he alive? Like, a bomb just blew up in his face. Like, and then we just get the scene of Peter, like, you know, like, doing this with, you know, to girls on the street next. It's so, like, you know. I
can understand if you don't dislike,
like, if you're not disliking Peter at this point in the movie, it's like, how could you do that, Peter? Like, I get, like, Harry was trying to kill you and everything, but, like, you're Spider-Man. You shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah,
but that's just like like how far like the suit has like kind of taken over.
Or
like how he's given himself up like completely to the suit, pretty much. And it's not until he hurts Mary Jane where it finally snaps him out of it, and he has to finally realize I got to get rid of this thing, what it's making me do. And that's when we get like the church scene and everything, where he's trying to rip it off and it doesn't want to come off. It's so bonded to him at this point, but the symbiote has one weakness, and that's like high levels of sound. So like the vibrations and everything is able to, like, because the bell, he's able to finally rip it off, and then it goes on Brock, because Brock's there.
Too.
It's a really cool shot.
The shot, or the suit off, I want to say too, just like one exchange in the Harry and Peter fight was like, I think Harry's like, I protected you in high school, and now I get to kick your ass. And like Peter's just like, ooh, like it's so scary.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. Going back to the church scene though, you know, I was like kind of prepared for the line of like, you know, where Brock is kind of like pleading with God, and like, you know, I want you to kill Peter. I was ready for him to say, like, I want you to kill Spider-Man, and I was ready for it to sound really goofy. But then, like, oh, he says Peter. I was like, oh, okay, that's a much stronger line.
Because I mean, he still doesn't like Spider-Man, I'm sure, because, like, he broke his camera. But, like, the one he really wants revenge on is Peter. So, because Peter makes him lose his job and steals his girl, and he hates Peter more.
I wish there was a scene of maybe, like, Brock on his own before all this happens.
Yeah.
Again, it's more like the things that I gripe with the movie are more like things that are missing.
Yeah.
I feel like there's some pacing issues and stuff, but it's not like that.
Yeah. Again, it's just that we're trying to do like way too much in this movie, so they just can't like devote time to stuff that They really
Yeah,
like
and it's
needed
already
more time.
longer. I think it's longer than the other two movies, right?
I think so, yeah. Not
Like
by
not by a
much.
ton, but
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure this is the longest movie in the Raimi trilogy.
yeah, first one was like 2 hours, 7 minutes. I'm sorry, that's Spider-Man 2. First one's like 2 hours pretty much, and then this one's 2 hours 20.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot longer. Which is okay. Like I don't mind that. I didn't really feel the length.
Yeah, I don't feel like even though this movie, like you said, and I agree that it has pacing issues, it doesn't feel like the length that it is.
Yeah, it weirdly feels shorter because it does feel like there's things that are missing.
Yeah, I think because it's like with the other movies, like every scene is still like pretty interesting and pretty good, like on its own.
Yeah.
So there's really like no scenes I don't like in the movie. Like I wish I could kind of just skip the scene or something like that. Or this scene feels like it goes on too long. I think like at least all the scenes go on for as long as they need to, and they don't overstate their welcome. And I'm not bored, I think, during any of the scenes. So that's
Yeah, I agree.
probably why.
Yeah, I just like these characters, and I think the storyline is so good. Like again, they hit the emotional parts really well in this movie. I still feel like again, even after that whole silly scene in the jazz club, like him hitting Mary Jane is pretty serious, and it made me go like, oh, even though I knew it was coming, it was like, oh, like like that just made me feel bad.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I really like the scene in the church, and there's this like one shot of like the black suit like kind of coming off of Peter, and he's like the light of the of the window or the opening or whatever is like shining a light on Peter, just like top half of him, because I think it's implied he's probably naked, but I don't know, just like it looks like a gothic painting or something. It like looks really good, that just like the way that shot is framed and everything. I was like, oh man, that looked great. And then I like the part with Brock getting turned into Venom. I think that was really cool.
Yeah. Pretty cool transformation scene.
Yeah, I do.
And then like kind of closing up on the face, doing like a screech, roar, growl, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, was that in the trailer? I feel like that was the trailer.
That was in the trailer. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember at the time everyone was complaining of how little Venom was in the movie, which I agree. I do wish Venom was in it more, because yeah, I think he should have been in the next movie.
Yeah,
that would have been
100% agree. They just had to shoehorn him in because they had to like do the whole thing with the black suit first, because you can't really like do Venom without doing that. So yeah, but if you want him to have in the same movie and have other stuff going on, then he basically just shows up for like the big fight at the end, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it would have been great because like this movie, Peter does so much like bad stuff, just like his vengeance and emotions just take over too much, and then like I think in the fourth movie, if they did Venom could have like kind of, made him atone for that kind of stuff in a way, or like answer to that, like, oh, you did this thing, you tried to kill the man who killed your uncle, and like, you hit Mary Jane and all that stuff. It could have come back in a really clever way.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
again, it's like it's a what could have been. Yeah, that's the problem with this movie. Is just, I mean, I don't think it's a problem with the movie. It's just a problem with the fact that we didn't get more of these movies.
Yeah,
I think it could have been setting up things really well. But yeah, I do think it's really weird how just Brock and Sandman just suddenly team up together. Like that feels rushed, don't you think?
Yeah.
It feels like it just
they never have any. Yeah, they never have any interaction. We just like when Eddie gets the suit, you just kind of see him swinging around, and then Sandman, thinks, of course, it's Spider-Man, and then it's kind of funny how like he has like Venom because he thinks it's Spider-Man, and like Venom just does like the thing, and he like Flint just like kind of tosses him like back on the building, and then it looks like he's just like okay, I guess that wasn't Spider-Man. It looks like he's just gonna leave. Like he really reacts to it. I almost think it's kind of funny how just like, oh, okay, that's not Spider-Man, whatever. And then yeah, he's like, oh, well, let's team up because like he can't stand a chance against either of us.
Yeah, which I like the idea of them teaming up. Like that's not the problem. Like it's just that it's not developed.
Yeah, it just feels
Right?
like,
Yeah.
like it's the end of the movie. Like, so Venom, he's not just gonna go fight Spider-Man himself because I think that's like, especially like with how arrogant Eddie is, like you think that he would probably do that first and like, okay, I lost, I can't beat Spider-Man myself, I need to team up with somebody. But it's like,
Yeah.
well, we want to get all of the characters together for the big battle, and we just have to kind of get on with it and have them team up because they want all the characters to have this big fight. So it doesn't have time to like just have Venom try to fight Spider-Man himself first and then lose and then realize like I need help to do this. So that's why it feels a little shoehorned. Like his immediate, I guess, reaction to gain the suit is like, I need to actually get Sandman because I don't think I could take Spider-Man myself.
Yeah, which again.
And then he like just happens to find, Sandman in like an alleyway.
Yeah, well, I think he says something about like, I've been looking for you.
Yeah, so he's just like
swinging.
Yeah, but he's just like swinging around and I guess just happens to find him.
Well, whatever. That's okay to me, but just.
And it's just like one of those things like it needs to happen type of thing.
I think that scene at least could have been longer. Like that conversation could have been longer. There should have been more like, oh, Eddie has to convince him to like fight Spider-Man or something. Something like that would have been much better.
Yeah, what I also this was actually something I think the Spider-Man 3 the game, I don't have a lot of positive. I don't think anyone has a lot of positive things to say about the game, but I think this is
really
actually
that
something.
Bad?
Yeah, it wasn't that good. It wasn't,
okay, because I remember the
worst.
First two games were pretty.
Yeah, no one really talks about the third game. That's the thing. But I think one thing that the game actually kind of did better was like their whole conversation is, in the movie he just, hey, do you want to team up to kill Spider-Man? And it just seems like Flint just kind of goes with it. But in the game, like he's like, well, I don't want to kill Spider-Man. He doesn't, because he doesn't have like a grudge or anything against Spider-Man. He's like, I just need him like kind of out of the way. And so he kind of refuses Venom, and then like Venom like, oh, I kidnapped your daughter, by the way, you have to team up with me.
Oh, see, that would have been great in the movie.
Yeah,
that would have actually been awesome.
Yeah, that's like that also would have been like a lot more like incentive for Sandman to team up with Venom.
Yeah,
and stuff. So like,
yeah,
I think the game kind of handled that a little bit better. Like that, I like that a little bit more than how the movie did it. So
yeah, that would have been cool. Yeah, it's again, it's just a shame that this movie couldn't have been stronger. But again, the good stuff is good. I do like the final fight.
I thought like for the end of a trilogy, like of course they want it to be this big, spectacular, epic, kind of all-out fight, and I think it succeeds pretty well. It feels very like grandiose and like, oh, feels like a final fight for like an end of a trilogy. We got fighting two villains, one that's like just as strong and fast as him, and like this big, hunking creature. Like we haven't really. It's different from like fighting Green Goblin and Doc Ock. It's like it's grandiose and it's also different. He's not just fighting something similar again. It's different at least. Than the other fights. And he's also having to save Mary Jane like while fighting them too.
Yeah. I do kind of wish that Sandman basically just like becomes like a big monster that growls.
Pretty much. It's funny. Like he always like whenever he got big, he just like kind of would make these growling sounds, and I
wish it was more just like. I wish it was just like Marco Flint could still talk. But
because he almost seems like to be like this big dumb monster because he doesn't talk. He just kind of like growls, and it's like it's strange because it's like, okay, he just seems like he's unintelligent here because he just makes sounds like that, and just
and again, I don't know. It would have been a good opportunity to like develop the character more.
Yeah, but like they don't have him talk at all. Like during
they could have done something cool with like the sound design, make his voice sound gravelly and like like it's made of sand.
Yeah, they don't really. they don't really like do that much cool stuff. Like they could have done a lot of cool stuff with his sand powers, and they just kind of, I thought, kept it pretty simple.
Yeah.
Like we'll have him turn into like this big monster and just kind of beat on Spider-Man. Like, okay, I guess it works, but could have done something a little bit more creative, I guess.
Yeah, they could have done like a sandstorm or something cool like that. But yeah, again, kind of, yeah, should have. But I like the scene before this where Peter talks to Harry.
Yeah, it goes to Harry and asks for Harry's help, and that's when we got to see kind of what happened to Harry after the bomb went off right in his face.
I have to say the makeup I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, no, that looked really good. Yeah.
And yeah, I like that he just says like, you know, she needs us. I thought that was, it's not like completely, I don't know. It's like a sorry without like having to say too much, you know?
Yeah. Because obviously going in, like, Peter knows like he's done something horrible to Harry, and you know Harry even like says that you don't deserve my help, and like, you know, Peter doesn't say anything because I think Peter knows like he's right, but she needs us. Like Mary Jane needs us. So like, can we like put aside our differences like just to save Mary Jane? But Harry's just like having none of that until we get. I think like one of the most controversial scenes of the movie, because I know a lot of people complain about the scene when they review it, is like, why didn't Bernard tell Harry this about his father sooner? Which this review is going on long enough, so I don't really like want to go into it too much. But it's controversial. Like, why did he wait this long? Like, why didn't he tell him sooner?
My problem with it is more just that again, that character isn't developed enough.
Yeah.
If he was like this, like developed as like, oh, you're my butler, but like you're like almost like Alfred or you know, or something in Batman.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure
you're my butler, but you're kind of like a father.
I'm pretty sure he's in the other movies, but like very, very minor.
Yeah, he's barely. I remember him in 2, but he didn't really do much.
No.
And then in 3, it's like he doesn't do much either. Like how Harry says, like, you know, can you get food for me and Mary Jane? That's like about it.
Pretty much.
But it's like, it feels like it comes out of nowhere because this character is kind of just not there enough.
Yeah.
I don't mind that it's like, oh, he tells him now. Because in a way, it's like some people like it just takes the worst for like something to finally be said. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
no,
especially in drama. Like I feel like that's kind of.
I go like a little back and forth between, because he was probably waiting for the right moment. But it's like at this point, it's also been like Harry's been consumed with revenge for years. So it's like I get like, you know, like if he had told him sooner, then maybe Harry wouldn't have like lived like the last couple of years with just nothing but revenge on his mind. But it really was like never like really self-destructive, probably until like you could maybe argue the end of 2 and like the events through 3. So maybe he like didn't do it because of that. Because like in 2, like most of it, he's just like doing Oscorp stuff. He's like, he obviously wants revenge on Spider-Man, but it doesn't seem like that's his everything. So maybe like he didn't feel like it's not really like doing anything for him. So I won't tell him yet. So yeah, it's like you can debate on that like all you want. I get people that kind of see it both ways. But yeah, I don't want to like talk about it for too much longer because like this review is going on pretty long
this
now.
Review might be
I just kind of want to move on, but I just wanted to bring it up that it is kind of like a controversial scene because of that.
Yeah. So we get the final fight. There's some fighting, and Venom like ties up Peter and is like gonna kill him, and jumps up and is gonna stab Peter, but Harry. First Harry comes back and saves Peter from.
Which I liked. I liked how he saves Peter and everything, and like they rekindle their friendship and they have some like fun banter and stuff. I liked that.
Yeah, I thought that was really fun. And then Harry basically sacrifices himself to save Peter.
He gets stabbed by his glider and dies the same way his father does.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's his glider. Yeah. almost forgot that too.
Also, it's foreshadowed too that he would die, because when he first gets amnesia and like he's in the hospital in the scene, and the nurse comes and asks like, "Oh, are those your friends?" He's like, "Yeah, I'd give my life for them," which he does.
Oh, yeah, that's
So
right.
that's foreshadowed there.
Yeah,
And that line's really easy to forget, because it's like you could just like write that off as like he just loves his friends, like, oh, I love them, of course I'd give my life for them, but he does that.
yeah.
And
Yeah, and then
I thought Harry's death was like pretty sad.
yeah, I thought it was too.
I think they did that scene like pretty well, like especially like Toby and Kirsten's like their crying faces, and their
yeah,
like the whole conversation they have when he's dying, and like they're rekindling their friendship and all that before he dies. I thought it was really well done. I thought it was a very well done death scene.
yeah. I like how kind of by the end of this, it feels like it's all about forgiveness in a way.
Yeah, because
I think
right
that's
before that too is we get like the final scene with Sandman and Peter too, where Sandman's
yeah,
like, I didn't want any of this. I didn't choose to be this. Like and he kind of tells Peter like what really happened that night when Uncle Ben died, how it was an accident, really.
yeah,
He had the gun and everything, but he had no intentions of killing Uncle Ben. He just wanted the car. And Uncle Ben was like, he was just trying to help me. He was just telling me, why don't you put down the gun and go home? And we know again that it was an accident. And, he's not happy that it happened. Like he doesn't, marvel in the
yeah.
fact that he
He's
did
not a
that.
bad guy,
No.
and he even says that himself when he's like,
Yeah.
leaving
So like Peter finally learns, though, it's like he wasn't just doing this because he's like, I just I'm a criminal and I want money and I'm just doing this for selfish reasons. Like I have a daughter and she's dying and I was just trying to get money, and I'm not asking for forgiveness, but you just should know the truth. And
Yeah,
since like a huge part of like the theme for the movie is forgiveness, Peter like kind of acknowledges like, well, I've done terrible things too, and I'd like to be forgiven for those things, so I need to forgive you for doing this. And I think especially since he learns that it was an accident, Peter's able to forgive him. And then we get the
yeah,
scene with Harry, and Harry kind of forgives Peter there too.
yeah. And Brock is kind of the only one who isn't able to forgive and kind of and meets an end because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I liked that whole. I've always liked that part where Peter grabs the poles and makes
Yeah,
that cage
it's a really cool scene.
Yeah, and yeah, I like how the suit comes off and Peter pulls Brock out, but then throws the pumpkin bomb in to destroy it. And I liked they when because Brock like is like, no, what are you doing, and runs into the suit, into the symbiote, and like dies along with it. The pumpkin bomb turns him into a skeleton, like in the first movie.
I didn't notice that. I never noticed.
Yeah,
that.
it's like a split second.
Wow.
But it was like really
brutal.
I was like, oh shit, I know. I was like, oh my god. It's like I can't believe they kept that continuity.
Yeah, there you go. I never noticed that before. That's a cool little detail.
Yeah. So yeah, and then I don't know what happens next. I guess it's pretty much just the scene with Mary Jane in the bar, right?
Yeah, we do get the funeral scene with Harry, which Spider-Man 1 ends with the funeral of his father, and then 3 ends with the funeral of Harry himself. Which Flash is also in that scene.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, oh shit.
What's funny too is like Captain Stacy and Gwen are also there. Like, how did they know Harry?
I guess just because he was like, I don't know. I mean, he was like president of Oscorp and
yeah, I guess
part of the town. I guess
like that's the only thing that makes sense. I just remember like, why are they there? Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, we get
because.
Yeah, but we get the funeral scene. Mirroring back to the first one, ending with a funeral scene, and then we get the final scene of Peter and MJ. And I like this scene because there's no dialogue between them. It's just them.
I was gonna say, there's no dialogue or narration, right?
Right. What I also like is Spider-Man 1 and 2 end with Spider-Man kind of like swinging off into the sunset, and you know, especially 2 is him swinging away from Mary Jane, whereas in this one ends with him and MJ coming together.
Yeah, I thought that was really
Yeah, it's nice to, you know, obviously there were plans to do more, but like this still feels like a satisfying conclusion, knowing that even though like they had it, like their relationship was pretty rocky this whole film, like they were still able to forgive each other and get back together in the end and like find comfort in each other. And you know, you could argue it ends on a little bit more of like a somber note again, because a lot of times the Spider-Man movies do end on somber notes, and I don't think this one's really any different.
yeah. It's somber, but like it does feel a little bit more like, I don't know, a bit happier because they do like,
Yeah, because it obviously implying that they get back together.
yeah, and Peter's kind of forgiven.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
yeah, I don't know.
it's a satisfying way, I think, still to end the trilogy.
Yeah, I did think that too. I was like, you know, that did kind of give me at least a little closure in a way.
Yeah.
To this, it still would have been awesome to see more of this series for sure.
But I'm sure that like they made an ending like that, like they wanted to give some type of closure in case like they didn't, which you know,
Yeah,
I don't know if that was their intention or not. I just like to think that because it's like, well, just in case we don't get more movies, we should kind of like at least give somewhat of like an ending that feels a little bit like some closure.
yeah,
So, which is good because we didn't end up getting another Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie. So,
yeah.
but that's the
Yeah,
end of
so
the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy.
yeah, we talked about all of them. And I guess we should rate them. Or this movie. I'm struggling between like a 3.5 or 4 out of 5. I really did enjoy it. Like I gave it a 4 right after watching it, which is the same rating I gave the first movie. Because in a way, I think this movie has a lot of high points that are like just as good and sometimes better than the first movie. But it definitely talking about it, I did feel like, man, there were a lot of missed opportunities.
Yeah, I think that's
And
just like kind of what
it's hard
weighs
to
it
like,
down. Whereas like the first
yeah,
one, I don't feel like the first one's like just a really fun movie overall, and I don't feel like, oh, they could have done this and they could have done that. Like I'm very happy with how 1 is, whereas 3 is like kind of like what you said. It's got some really like great moments in the franchise, but because like there's just like I think they could have done things better, and it feels like there's a lot of missed opportunities. It's like, yeah,
yeah.
a little bit harder because I was also kind of thinking of my rating too and going back and forth. But you go ahead on with yours first. Like, continue what you were saying.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. It made me laugh a lot, especially. I mean, like the whole jazz club scene is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I still think this movie hits a lot of the emotional beats really well. Um, Again, like him hitting Mary Jane, it's like shocking. Like him throwing the bomb at Harry is shocking. Uh, the scenes with Aunt May are great. I don't know. There's lots of really great stuff in it, but I don't know. I think maybe it's like a really high 3.5, I'd say.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think 3.5 is pretty deserved.
Yeah, 3.5 is my rating as well. If you want me to know, because I really enjoy this movie too, and there's plenty of scenes that you just mentioned that are really good. That's why I hate when people like hate on this movie. Like, there's nothing good about it. There's plenty of good about it. It's just,
oh yeah, definitely.
It's just mostly them. They try to do too much stuff, and even though I think the stuff that's there is good, there's just so many things I would have liked to see a bit more developed, and you know, like a lot of just missed opportunity, like we've been saying through a lot of the review, where I think they could have done like this was good, but it could have been better. Whereas I don't really feel that way about the first and second movie. So
Yeah, the first and second movie I think are just extremely solid.
Yeah.
The whole way through.
Yeah. But Spider-Man 3 is a fun, enjoyable movie, and it doesn't
Yeah.
seem to get as much hate now. I think, especially after the Amazing Spider-Man films. Um,
Yeah.
I think people are starting to look, and I don't know if it's just like people love the memes and stuff like that. Bully Maguire, is fun and all that. But I think people look a little bit more favorably on this movie because I know, like when this movie first came out, it just seemed like no one like that I talked to liked it at all. Like, oh, it's just bad.
Yeah.
Or it's like I never thought that. Like when I came out watching this, I was like, I really enjoyed it. I know that I get like the complaints people had with it, but I always kind of enjoyed this movie. So
Yeah, because there are lots of really
yeah, there's a lot of good
great
stuff in it.
moments.
Like I get people being disappointed how they handled Venom and all that stuff, but I still really liked a lot of what they did with the movie, and it really could have been a lot worse with how much stuff that they were cramming into this movie. Like I said earlier,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think 3.5 is a very fair rating for the movie.
Yeah, I think that's a really good score too. Like I give lots of movies I really like a 3.5. Uh yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Overall, the trilogy I think is just still my favorite bunch of superhero movies, my favorite superhero film series.
Mm-hmm.
Uh yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. It's just like really this whole trilogy was just so much fun to watch again.
Indeed, yeah,
Yeah.
I always love watching these movies.
Yeah. So I don't know what we're gonna do next time. I don't know if you had any ideas.
Now, I was gonna see if you had any ideas, like if we wanted to maybe do like another trilogy or something and something else, or something along those lines. We don't have to decide it for this review. I guess we can decide it later. But
Yeah,
like
because
doing this like one trilogy was kind of fun.
yeah,
So,
I think it also depends on when Dustin is going to come back.
Yeah,
because he's just been taking time off of this to focus more on work.
yeah, it seems like it's going to be a bit longer. So we could probably do another trilogy of something if we wanted to.
Yeah, I am gonna next week. We're not gonna do one because I am gonna be.
Out of town.
Oh wait, no, wait. I'm sorry. Next week we'll be able to do something.
Okay, yeah, it's the following week.
So I don't know what do we have anything for
Just next
any
week.
idea for next week? I don't know. We could always decide separately. I don't. Do you have any idea?
What if we do Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Oh man, I have to say I do enjoy that movie as like as kind of a so bad it's good movie.
Yeah, if I had to pick one to do, I'd rather do that. Like, it's just like another Spider-Man movie we could squeeze in. Like, if you wanted to talk about that, we could do that.
I'd be down for that. I thought of that or either No Way Home. But Amazing Spider-Man 2 might be more interesting to talk about.
That could be. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Hmm.
Well, you can sit on that, I guess.
Okay, I'm down for Amazing Spider-Man 2 because I actually do own it on Blu-ray.
Alrighty.
It's like the only other Spider-Man movie I own other than the Sam Raimi trilogy.
Yeah. All right. Let's do it then.
All right, Amazing Spider-Man
2.
2. I might watch the first one again. I don't know. We'll see if I have because we're gonna do this on Monday, so maybe I won't have time. But yeah, we'll talk about 2 at least.
So. As I think that pretty much wraps up everything here. I think for the end of this trilogy here, I got a little special outro here. And Julian has no idea I'm doing this, but I think it should be done as a little special something. I don't think, don't worry about no copyrights. We're fine. No one's gonna see this anyway. So I'm gonna do something. When I walk off camera, you can end the call. That will be the end, but it's when I walk off camera, okay? Julian doesn't know I'm doing this, but this should be done. This is my little thank you for watching our reviews. I gotta unplug this. All right. How's my audio? Is my audio good? Can you hear?
Yeah.
It's good. Okay.
Oh, I can hear myself.
Yeah. Well, just let me make sure. Okay. So remember when I'm not yet, but what? Okay. Yeah, I think we're good. So this is
So you want me to stop recording when you
when I walk off.
Exit frame.
Yeah, when I walk off.
Okay.
All right. So this is a thank you to anyone who watched this. This is how we're ending this.
You want me to stop now? All right.